Welcome, everybody, to another episode of She Shift. It's Wednesday. You know how I do it. I have three things for you. I always start out with your three things homework. First, it is Win Wednesday. Drop it in the feed and let me know what your win is. I love to give a good shout out and I love to celebrate you. And you'll get to hear myself. And yes, I have a guest this week. You get to hear our win for this week. But tell us what your win. Assignment number two. Look, I already ate my snack, you guys, and I've already had my evening beverage, but I love to hear what is your evening beverage or what are you drinking right now? Let's hear it. I want to hear what you're doing. And lastly, can you go get your girlfriend and girlfriends, your family members and all, and join us here, right here on She Shift? I wanted you to bring them here. If you have any questions during the show, y'all know how I love to do it. You can drop it in the feed and I can see them live. Or you can now look, now you guys can drop me a voicemail message at www.sheshift.co. Drop it there and I will definitely get the message there. Are you ready for tonight's show? Well, let me ask you this. What if the thing you're looking for isn't behind you and is waiting for your next chapter? Is that you? Cuz look, that was me. I literally was waiting. I did not start my next chapter until after 45 when and it was when I had received several nudges from several different women where they were like, there's more for you than this. Now, let me say this. I didn't understand what my what's next was, even though they kept telling me, is that you? Does someone tell you they can see what your what's next is? So let me ask you this. So tonight we're going to all talk about reinvention, the unexpected opportunities, and the courage to say yes to your what's next. How many of you are scared to say yes to your what's next? Well, if that's you, come on in, lean in, because tonight's guest, her name is Danielle Frank, and she knew a thing or two about life pivot. And I can't wait for you to hear her story. But before I bring you on, y'all, I want you to hear a little bit about Danielle. Danielle had launched her career in Hollywood, but then she traded in the red carpet for red wine and centered it into the world of wine and spirits, where she spent more than 2 decades of building an iconic luxury brand, actually luxury brands. How what did she do after that? Y'all, she then pivoted more, and in 2025, Danielle became an author. And what she did is she had written a book called A Wine Lover's Guide to Parenting, a humorous look at family life inspired by her experiences as a devoted aunt and a keen observer of everyday chaos. We need to hear this, don't you think? If you are ready to go get your pen and paper, because Daniel's going to draw on the career that spans her entertainment, luxury hospitality, and publishing. She even's going to bring wit, warmth, and distinguished prestige to everything she does. And as always, she's going to go ahead and encourage us to embrace your life pivot as well as find the humor as we do in this journey. So without further ado, y'all, I am going to bring onto stage my amazing guest, Danielle Frank. How are you doing, lady?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on your fabulous show. I love it.
Oh, I'm so excited. Look, I've been talking to everybody about you, even my mom. I asked her does she want to pop on. She's a little nervous, so maybe she'll drop us a line and I'll read it to you.
I hope so.
I know. Before we get into Daniel hearing a little bit more about you, you guys down here below, you can see where you can connect to Danielle. So there's so many ways you can connect to her. So be on alert for that. So Danielle, as I read this amazing bio on you, is there more that you would like for our listeners to know about you?
Yeah, I mean, I just, you highlighted, the key things. There's also, was a breakup of an engagement mixed in the middle of all that. So, while I'm out here promoting my book, I've been doing, podcasts, going on the podcast circuit because the bigger story that I love sharing with everybody is really, I really enjoy shining a light on how embracing life pivots, even though they don't match the original quote unquote checklist, it really can be both freeing and empowering. I mean, as you touched upon, my story is rooted in transformation, and it didn't happen overnight. And, it's happened all along the way, and it continues to happen. And I'm way past 45. I'm in my 50s now. And, you can continue to reinvent yourself. And I love talking about, openly about bucking traditional timelines, embracing the life that looks different than the one you thought you were headed towards, and discovering the freedom and the humor and the unplanned. Because I've learned that sometimes, the most meaningful life often begins when the original plan ends.
Oh my goodness. You have said nothing. I know. You heard me at the beginning. I had friends that were like, hey, and I'm just not listening. And then I had another one was like, okay, so what do we need to do? So I agree with you, and I commend you. And I love that you even talking about the pivot and how to embrace it. But before we get into our girl chat, can you read everybody a little bit read a chapter on your book, please?
I would love to. So, as you'll hear through my journey, I've added author to my bio. It's actually a book I wrote about 14 years ago when I did break off my engagement. So a lot of things were happening, including, the idea that motherhood might not happen for me, but I still want a seat at the table to how kids are raised to, be good contributors to society. And also, as you mentioned, working in the wine and spirits industry, I love making wine knowledge fun and accessible. So I wrote this book, A Wine Lover's Guide to Parenting, the Fine Art of Wine and Wine Management. So it's really just a tongue-in-cheek humor book. It's, not, I don't proclaim to be an expert child rearing doctor or anything like that. You don't need to be a parent to know good human behavior. So it's all just basic human decency, paralleling, to wine terminology. And every time I use wine terminology, I give the definition, give an idea of how basic understanding of how wine is made at the back of the book. So I'll read you lesson 3, which is you don't want your kids to ferment. So in winemaking process, the fermentation process is when you convert sugar to alcohol. So we think sugar is something sweet. Alcohol we think of as can be harsh and biting. So this is that you don't want your kids to turn from someone sweet to harsh because they don't have manners. Manners, manners, manners are the key to it all. These lessons need to start even when they're small. Teach them this from day one before they start to crawl. You don't want your kid to be the sour grape in the bunch and turn into a spoiled brat that kids want to punch. When they start talking, make sure they know thank you and please, and to always say bless you when they hear someone sneeze. Please and thank you are an absolute must. Without that, your child's a total bust. There's nothing worse than a child who has behavior that is crude, because it'll continue as they're older and become someone who's rude. And people don't take kindly to and aren't nice to those with attitude, because it's very off-putting and puts others in a bad mood, oftentimes causing confrontation and leads to a nasty feud. Wanting to put a little bit of poison in your child's food. Is it really how you want your kids to be viewed? Wouldn't you prefer that there's someone who's wooed? Without manners, they'll ferment and turn into someone harsh and biting. They may turn into a kid who's rude, obnoxious, and always fighting. So teach your kids some manners and to have some heart and soul. Without that, your kid may well turn into an a-hole.
I love it. Before we go, and I love that. Look, I read it. I love that. And I love that you put the humor into it. And I love the humor. So kudos to you. But let me ask you, Danielle, first of all, before we go any further, where can everybody purchase the book? Because I'll get in and I'll get all tangled in our conversation. Now, I want to make sure we get that first.
Oh, thank you. It is online on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Like I said, it's great for, parents, aunts, uncles, or just anybody that likes a good humor book or wants to learn about wine. Makes a great baby shower gift. Pair it with a onesie, you're done. But yeah, it's meant to be humorous. It's, parenting is such a serious job. This is more just a humorous homage to parents everywhere to have a little fun with it, and hopefully a glass of wine with it as well.
Yeah, I love it. So let's step back though. Let's start back before you got to be doing that amazing book. You were doing red carpet and then you shifted. What made you shift?
So, I was living in New York, working for Miramax Films during its heyday, doing international PR. In my 20s, traveling the world, going to film festivals. I mean, it was amazing. It really was. But, that was sort of my first pivot in life where all my friends were starting to, get on the path of marriage. And I just realized, I can go on this path, but I'm not quite ready yet. My story isn't, not that your story ends when you get married, right? But, I had that vision of being married, having kids. I don't know what that meant for, my future career. I don't know what, with my job, I was traveling a lot too. And I know that, once you have kids, it might derail some of the traveling as well. So I just sort of made the decision, like, I'm not quite ready for that step yet. I've always wanted to move to LA. Now's the time to do it before I have, responsibilities with the family and kids. And so I just decided I'm going to move to LA. And I did join a personal PR firm. There were no studio jobs, and I didn't think I wanted to do personal PR. And no disrespect to personal publicists, that's just not my journey, and I didn't think it would be. Um, and unfortunately, the agency that I started with, it was a very toxic environment. So that was the other big pivot and life lesson for me as well. When, in all my time at Miramax Films, yeah, sure. In my 20s, did I go out the night before, and did I wake up the next morning like, oh, I'm a little tired, I don't want to go to work, but there was never a day that I had that like pit in my stomach, that like that ulcer inducing, that anxiety feeling. When I was at this PR agency, I was only there 3 months. And in those 3 months, I mean, it was almost every morning, I was like, I just had that pit in my stomach. And so that was like a real eye opener for me of, a life lesson of, we spend half of our lives at work, and you have to enjoy it in some capacity. And when it's not serving you, when the job's not serving you, when the relationship's not serving you, when a friendship isn't serving you, you have to listen to that and, not be scared to do what's best for you. So that's exactly what I did. I quit without having another job, which is very unlike me. I'm very type A. But I just realized that, it was affecting my, my well-being, and that wasn't a space I wanted to live in. So I quit. And, some of that's a little naivety, right? Late 20s, early 30s, no, no husband, no kids, no mortgage. So I figured, I'll be just fine. But I think also that confidence I had is just, it comes with the more life transitions, the more pivots you take, you're building up your armory to arm you to know that you have the confidence and you can do it. And me moving from New York to LA was the first step in that, and giving me the confidence to know, like, I can do anything I put my mind to. And so, yeah, I quit. And while I was trying to figure it out, somebody told me about this job with Bacardi USA. And I was like, oh yeah. I mean, it was a big step back in pay, it was an entry level position. But I was like, oh, you work from home, you get a car allowance. Oh, this sounds fun. This sounds great, until I figure out what it is I want to do when I grow up. 10 years later with Bacardi, now 12 years with Moet Hennessy. I just celebrated 12 years. I just realized what an amazing industry it was. It is. I am very fortunate that I've worked for two amazing companies that represent, fantastic brands with such history and romanticism and aspiration. So yeah, it just, it showed me that sometimes, when you dive into that next path, you can find an equally, if not more rewarding, journey that you're on.
I agree. I so agree with you. But, so many people, but let's be honest, as you a pivot, and I think I could listen to you, I could be like, oh my goodness, look, let me go get, and I don't even drink much wine, but let me go get some wine. I'm like, really? Well, what else? And what I would be the one, it would be me, just keep asking you and asking you. But why do you think so many women resist the pivot when they know it's needed? Why do you think that?
Well, I think the middle, the uncertainty, it's uncomfortable, right? It's hard. It's hard to, being in the middle of the bridge is an uncomfortable place. But, it's hard sometimes for people to realize that it's necessary to embrace it. It's necessary to propel us forward, right? Where we are, sometimes that's why we get stuck, is because it's comfortable, right? Even if we're not happy, at least, what's the expression? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. At least what you're into. So change, of course, is hard, but it's really trying to, lean into the fact of realizing that the pivot is the point. The pivot isn't a detour, it's the curriculum. You don't gain confidence from never failing. It comes from knowing that you can get up and do it again and choose again and try again. So yeah, of course, it's always hard to take that next step, but it really starts with the confidence. Like I said, you don't stand on the middle of the bridge forever. You're going to cross over to the other side, but it starts first with the confidence. It's the confidence you have in yourself to tell yourself, pick up your left foot. Now pick up your right foot. Now keep going, keep going, keep going, because you will get over to the other side. You will. You'll cross it, but do it intentionally.
I agree, but you know what? We can say that now.
Of
But
course.
let's be honest. We could talk about, oh yeah, we got the confidence now, but back then it was a little scary. And say if someone is sitting there like, okay, yeah, Daniel, that sounds good at confidence, but it's facing me right here in my face. What would you tell them?
Yeah, of course, at the time, everything seems scary, but it's hard to tell yourself it can also be exciting. But somebody asked me the other day, I was on another podcast, and I said, okay, if you can go back to your, teenage self, what advice would you give? What would you do different? And I said, what advice would I give? It would be, don't change a thing. Don't change a thing, because you know what? Everything, even the bad, it's made me who I am today. And I love where I am today. And I wouldn't maybe, um, I wouldn't have gotten there without the misses, without the falling down, without the messy middle. It's brought me to this space of being happy and satiated with the life that I've created. Yeah. So, to anybody out there that, yes, change is scary, but I always say, there's not one yellow brick road to Oz. There's lots and lots of paths along the way. And you don't know, maybe that next path, you fall off one path, maybe that next path you're on is the one you were meant to be on all along, but you're not going to know unless you just you try it. And you know what? If that path isn't for you, you can find a new path. You have the power to determine the path that you want to go on. You just have to, again, keep telling yourself one step forward, one foot in front of the other.
So I can say, or is it safe to say you're happy that you said yes to your what's next then?
Absolutely. I mean, even just, look, I mentioned I broke off an engagement. I thought that, I always wanted to be a mom. That was my plan. I love kids. I have such a maternal instinct. And, breaking off my engagement, of course was scary because I was now 37, but, rather than, it was not the right relationship.
Mhm.
One of the main issues was he has kids from a first marriage. He ultimately said he doesn't want more. And that was number one, of importance for me. So that was a big thing, but there were other things. There were other things that really were making me unhappy. And so, rather than stay in something because, oh, I'm 37, I don't want to get back out there now.
Mhm.
No, my personal happiness, like I can't tell you how many times, like, I think there's nothing worse than feeling lonely in a relationship. And, that's what really empowered me to move on from it. Not that I was, oh, I'm not going to stay in this because I'm 37 and oh, it's getting late to have kids. I was so unhappy, and my
Mm.
happiness is of number one importance. So, I broke it off, but I just empowered myself, and I froze my eggs. I said, if I'm not with somebody by 40, I'll do it by myself. um, Years have gone on. I actually was in a relationship for a while. We collectively decided that we weren't going to, embark on that, because all of a sudden, this new life that I forged for myself, now moving up in my career, I'm a big traveler. Obviously I don't have responsibilities of being at home for, children at home. So I've leaned into that aspect of my life. So, my point is, yeah, I've leaned into that, post 40, post 45, this life that I built for myself. So, I thought that motherhood was for me. And I'm sure if I was a mom, I would be loving it just as much. But I've
Right.
leaned into this new life. I'm an aunt to so many of my friends' kids. I'm involved in my niece and nephew's lives. I mentor. So I still get that maternal, feeling and instinct. And I get to be surrounded by kids and share that love that I have. But I've forged this new path of creating a life that's, focused on my career, putting my book out, traveling the world. And so it's finding the happiness in that new journey for sure has made it really fulfilling.
Well, you make me feel, girl, when you making me feel like, okay, now I'm at 60. I'm like, okay, now I think I'm going to pivot one more time. But I promise you, this is really exciting because let's be honest, how many women do you hear that's reached 45 or older and someone's like, it's starting over and they're like, I can't start over. And so many times, and when I hear that, I'm like, no, but you can. Don't let your I can't stop you from, you can do it. Right. So hearing you, this has made me like, oh my God, I can. And look, don't even ask me what I'm pivoting to. I don't even know. Because when you said the wine, when you were talking about the wine, and I want to get into that more, I'm like, huh, what can
Well,
I do?
just as you said that about, look, it is scary, right? But
Mhm.
what I keep telling myself is I have one life to live, right? And I want to do with it everything that I can within legal limits, of course, but
Right,
I want
right.
to do with this life. I want to come out of this life knowing, I mean, I don't want to sound morbid, but I was literally like talking to someone, I was like, of course I hope to live a very long life. Absolutely. You know, I could honestly say today, that I've lived a very fulfilled life. There's still a lot I want to do, but
Of
that's the feeling that guides me through all of this. Like there's still a lot I have to do. And I just think, you have one life to live and you have to just keep telling yourself that do with it what you want, as I said, within legal limits, but go after those things. And that's why the pivot is important to make sure that,
Mhm.
when your time ends, you don't have any regrets. You don't say, I wish I tried this. I wish I did that. You'll never regret trying something and failing. You'll regret not trying it at all.
I agree. And let me say this is spooky, but you don't know this until now, but I always used to start out my show telling ladies, you have one life to live. Live it to I used to say that all the time, and
Oh,
it's
I
true.
love it. Yeah.
So you have solidified, it's true. We need to live the one life, understanding that, okay, we're going to find the challenges, but I think at this, as we cross over, I love a good challenge. Let's go after the challenge. And you have shown challenges comes up, but it's so good to feel the challenge and knowing that we're going to overcome it and it's going to be okay.
Absolutely. And understanding that every transition gives you information. And what matters most is what you do with it, where you take it, how you let it propel you forward, not backwards.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the wine. Let's talk about the wine business and all, which I think is so cool, even though I don't even know nothing about it at all. But I think it's remarkable that you have even embarked on that. So how did you even get into the wine business?
Yeah, just my sister was working for an agency that worked for Bacardi in New York, and she just loved the industry and loved the job. And I saw how it was one of the first jobs that I've seen that she actually wrapped her head around and really embraced. So she actually knew somebody that was hiring out here, and look, you don't even have to be an expert to enjoy wine or spirits or anything like that. I think the beauty of it all is the storytelling, right? And that's what spoke to me. These brands that have history, that also it's the romanticism of it as well. Like wine, for example. Well, one of the brands I represent is Veuve Clicquot champagne, and what I
Mm,
love best, you don't need to be an expert on champagne. And also, what I like, you may not like. Everything's subjective, right? We all have different
right.
palates, we all have different tastes, but it's just about the feeling that it evokes in you, right? Somebody might love the taste of the champagne. Somebody might remember that they drank a glass with their grandmother. Or, it all evokes storytelling and romanticism. And then the story of Madame Clicquot, the history. She was essentially the first female entrepreneur. She took the helm of her husband's winery when he passed at age 27, which was unheard of. And she created the first blended rosé. She created the first vintage champagne. She created the riddling rack, which is, how we get the sediment out of champagne. And it's a process still used today.
Yeah.
So just, embracing the story behind brands, that's what really spoke to me. It's, again, it's, I can, it's not about, it's not like people say like, oh, do you drink all day? No, we don't drink. It's a job like anything else. But you know what? It's, when you get to represent brands, whether it is wine or spirits, or whether you're representing, a clothing brand that you're passionate, anything that you're passionate about, when you represent something that, evokes emotion out of you, it's a win-win. It
I
becomes a
agree
passion.
too. So you love working for Bacardi and all them.
Yeah, Bacardi was a fantastic company to work for, 10 years there. And, Moet Hennessy, Bacardi is just spirits, Grey
Yes.
Goose, Bombay Sapphire, Bacardi. But I, love the idea of expanding my repertoire of knowledge and experience. Moet Hennessy is wine and spirits. So I started with them 12 years ago and hope to retire with them in the long term. Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you, as you have done the wine and now you're the amazing author, why was it now the right time for you to write your book, which is amazing?
So I actually wrote this book 14 years ago. When I broke off my engagement, there was a lot of things happening at the time. First, a book came out called Go the F to Sleep, by Adam Mansbach. It was, every new parent had it. It opened the door for this new genre of adult children's book. So it looks like a children's book. It's illustrated, but it's made for adults. So I was watching my niece and nephew, who were great kids. They're adults now, but of course, every kid has the propensity to whine, and they were whining about something. And I was like, Aunt Danielle drinks wine. She doesn't listen to wine. And so the ideas just all started flowing about, there's so many things that you can parallel. And there's, of wine terminology to human behavior about whining and mulled wines and letting your wine breathe, just like letting a person breathe. And, all this stuff. So it just started to all come together. And right when I broke off with my fiance, and faced with the fact that motherhood might not happen for me, I realized, I still want a seat at the table of how kids are going to be raised to be good human beings because they are the future generations of our society. So it all came together. So I wrote the book, but as you can imagine, getting published is really hard.
Yeah.
The internet wasn't even as widely used as it is now. And the process, agents don't want you unless you have a publisher. Publishers don't want you unless you have an agent. The process to send your book in, every publisher had a different process. I had to write different types of cover letters. I thought I was like applying to college all over again. And so I shelved it for quite some time. And, last year, I've always had good feedback on the book. And like I said, I'm a big proponent of you have one life to live, do with it everything you want. I mean, I love game shows. I was like, I'm going on a game show, did that 2 years ago. I want to travel and see the world. I try and check everything off my list. So, but this the book was the one thing I said, this is going to plague me on my deathbed if I don't try and get it out there. And so, yeah, I heard about this hybrid publishing model. So it's like self-publishing, but you have a publisher behind you guiding the process. So you're, paying for everything and paying for that service. But it was less daunting than going the self-publishing route. And yeah, and so, I did that and bringing it to the world and doing this promotion on my own. And sure, it's scary and it's an investment, but it's exciting at the same time. And it's so fulfilling, to get it out there. And even if, nobody reads it, just knowing that it's out there, something that I created, that's the point. That's the pivot. That's the main point.
I agree with you. So, believe it or not, our time is almost up. This has been, I could talk all, look, like I said, if we had that little bit of wine, girl, we would still be carrying it on.
Seriously.
Well, let me ask you this: if a woman was listening today and could take one small step towards her next chapter, what would you encourage her to do?
I would encourage her to, understand that the pivots, the shifts, it doesn't mean failure, it means evolution, and to heed the lessons to let it propel you forward. It's, go into the journey, look for the misses, look for the messy middle, because that's going to give you the knowledge of what you need to come out of it, and just embrace it. Right. Like I said, maybe the new path that you're on, was the path that you were meant to be on all along. And you're not going to know unless you find out.
So you feel you're on the right path?
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you. Over here, it looks, look, I tell everybody on this side of the on this side of the on this side of the grass, it sure does feel good over here to see after, especially after what we've done in the 20s, in the 30s, in the, I might even say some of the 40s was not sure, but now over here, I love it. I really love it. Wouldn't change it and for the world. Before we do, I always stop at this point and go ahead and have you go ahead and see how people can connect to you and where they can get your book. And then after that, we're going to do a rapid fire questions. Just what comes to your mind, and we'll
Oh
go.
boy. Okay. Yeah. You can get my book at barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com. You can find me. I have a website, www.daniellefrankauthor.com. You can find me on Instagram at Create a Great Story.
Love it. Okay, you ready for the rapid fire questions?
Oh, I hope so.
You are. It's gonna be fun. Look, we've had fun enough to hear. It's gonna be fun.
Absolutely. I'm ready. Give it to me.
Okay, coffee or wine?
Oh boy. That's a tough one. I mean, I have to have my coffee in the morning, my wine at night, but I'll go with wine.
And what kind of wine?
Oh, that's, it really depends on my mood. If I'm having a burger or a steak, then it's a nice red. It's summer out, so I love a good white, a good Chablis
Okay.
or Sancerre. Yeah.
All right. Hollywood or hospitality?
Well, I have to say hospitality because that's my existing job, but man, my time in Hollywood is fantastic. But I'll say hospitality.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a night owl, but as you get older, but I've always been somebody, even when I would go out and stay out late, I always get up early. I just have like an internal clock and I get up and go. I'm like not somebody that's a snoozer.
Yeah, me either. I'm gonna get up and go too. Mountain or beach?
Beach.
Book or podcast?
It's tough. I've been really getting into like books lately, well, especially when I'm traveling. When I'm reading, I love a book on a beach, but I love podcasts in everyday life.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I'm giving you multi-layered answers.
No, I love this. What kind of book? What kind of books or what kind of genres of books do you like to read?
I love everything. So I love like spy thriller. Brad Thor is one of my favorite authors, and he's become a friend. He has this series with this lead character, Scott Harvath. So it's sort of like, Jason Bourne, or it's like a series, and his books. So I love those, but then I love historical fiction. I really love historical fiction a lot, and just layered stories. A Little Life by Anya, I forgot her last name, is one of my all-time favorite books I've ever read. It's just a layered story of four friends. One of the best books ever.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to check that out. What's one of your favorite podcasts that you like to listen to?
Oh, well, my friend just recommended, I like true crime. I really like true crime a lot. This isn't really true crime, but the one I'm listening to now, it's called Trapped. I think it's called Trapped. I'm going to look this up quickly. Oh my God. Like, I'm sorry, but some of you ladies out there are
I think I'm
crazy. And it's called Love Trapped. Oh my God, this girl is.
And you know what? I was listening to it while I was working. I can't do it because it makes me I can't focus on work and listening to it too. So I had to turn it off.
Well, I didn't know him on The Bachelor. I don't watch The Bachelor. I watched season 1 of The Bachelor and I never watched it again because I'm like, these women are crazy. You met this guy like once and you're in love with him. I just can't get over that concept. Like, women need to stop acting like going to crazy town when it comes to men. Right. And then this story is this is the extreme of a woman. Oh boy.
I'm with you. Like I said, I can't even listen to it during the day while I am working because I was like pausing my job to listen to this, and then I'm like,
it's jaw dropping. I'm only on episode, I think 4 of 12, and I'm like, and my friend is like, oh wait, it gets worse.
Your friend is right. I'm not going to be the spoiler of it. I'm gonna have to check back with you and see. But oh my goodness, you guys have to check it out. I too listen to it. What is one word that describes this season of your life?
A word that describes a season of my life.
Your season of your life. What's one word that describes the season in your life?
Fulfilling.
Ooh, love it. What is one thing women need more of after 45?
Confidence.
What is one thing women need less of after 45?
They need less of the noise. the noise from outsiders, or the noise in their head telling them they can't pivot, they can't do something different, they can't go after what they want.
I agree. A risk you're glad you took.
Risk, I'm glad wow. There's so many. The risk moving from New York to LA, switching industries, breaking off my engagement. I mean, they all led to better things because, I was ready. I was ready for that transition. But yeah, I'd say definitely getting out of the engagement. I see so many that would be at the top because, it saddens me when I see people that stay in something that is not making them happy. I've learned to really just love myself, and I'm happy. Of course, I love love. I love being in love, and I hope I meet somebody again. But it's because I'm confident in myself. I'm fine on my own. And once you're in that space, you also don't get into that space of where you need to be with somebody. And that's a hard place to be. And
I
so,
agree. I
yeah,
agree. Your favorite way, if your favorite way to celebrate your win.
nice glass of champagne.
Ooh, love it. What is something you're saying to your what is something you're saying yes to right now?
Travel. Anytime somebody's like, do you feel like taking a trip? Yep. Like, especially if it's someplace I haven't been before.
Yes.
I want to do it all. I want to do it all. I just went to somebody invited me to the Royal Ascot in London,
Yes.
and it started with a friend visiting from London and us talking about it. And somebody else got me tickets, and I was like, absolutely, take advantage of this, use my miles, book my trip to London, and we made it happen. And I'm not, I'm going to say yes to anything that's new and exciting and that checks something off my bucket list.
I love it. Finish this sentence. My next chapter is
Undiscovered. I think I have in my mind of, yeah, I want to continue on the travel path. I hope to retire and move to Europe half the year, but I think there might be something else along the way that I might not even be aware of yet. And
oh,
I'm excited to discover it.
I look, I'm with you. Well, as we get ready to close down our show for tonight, I thought this was so much fun. But I want to ask you this. The theme of our show was to say yes to your what's next. If you could leave our listeners with one final thought about embracing reinvention and the unexpected opportunities, what would it be?
It would be just dive head first, right? The story is the point. That I always say, each chapter, everything that happens in your life is a chapter in your story. So, keep filling the pages, keep reinventing yourself, do what you want to do. Again, you have one life to live, just go
Mhm.
live it.
I'm with you there. Well, Danielle, this was so much fun. Like I
I
said,
agree.
I could go ahead and have my little wine and still be sitting on the couch talking to you and everything else like that. But I appreciate you, and I want you to understand that this was very eye opening, and I hope this has motivated or inspired women to say yes to their what's next and know that we are facing so many obstacles, but we still embrace them and we overcome them. So I appreciate you. If I'm gonna put you in the green room, but I don't want you to go anywhere. I'll be right back with you.
I'm going anywhere. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, you guys, did you catch it? Tonight was amazing. And I hope this has inspired you to go after your what's next, knowing that we all face obstacles and also to embrace the age or where you're at, no matter where you're at. So understand it's never too late to go after your what's next. If you feel the today was empowering, inspiring as it is, I thought it was. Go. I would love for you to share. And I always say sharing is caring. So share it around. Though since your girlfriends may not have been able to join you tonight's show, but share with them. If you would like to leave us a message, please do it at www.sheshift.co. We would love to hear you. We would love to hear the shout outs. If you have any questions that you would like to ask Danielle or you would like to drop her a line, do it at the www.sheshift.co. There is over there where you can leave a voicemail message and I'll send it over to her. Well, you guys, tonight, as always, it was inspiring. I hope this empowered you to say yes to your what's next. Until next week, when I'll be on for another amazing show. Take care of yourself and know your what's next is right around the corner. Bye, everybody.